This is the new Xiaomi Redmi Note 14 Pro Plus 5G, and this is flagship caliber, but cheaper. Hi everyone, this is JD, your gadget review friend. Welcome, and welcome back to Gadget Rev Now. Every year, phone manufacturers release mid-range phones that looks and feels like a flagship phone, but they would cut some corners, one or two features that would separate their flagship lineup from their mid-range devices. But what if there's a brand that totally blurs the definition of a mid-range phone, bringing flagship technology and AI to a mid-range segment? This is the unboxing and full review of Xiaomi Redmi Note 14 Pro Plus 5G. Let's go to work. Let's start with the design, and this is an overhaul from the past two generations of Redmi devices, where you have an iPhone-like camera modules on the upper left corner of the phone. It's now a symmetrical, a rounded square situated on the upper dead center of the back of the phone. I couldn't help but to compare this to Vivo X200 series with a circular module at the back. It feels the same but just a little bit smaller. In fact, you can actually place your fingers resting at the bottom part of the camera module while you navigate or use the phone. And while we're still at the back, you would also notice the two-tone back cover. You have this checkered screen type design that shows up when it gets illuminated, which is a pretty cool touch in my opinion. This back panel is protected by Corning Gorilla Glass 7i, which brings significant enhanced scratch resistance. Also, overall, this phone is advertised to have better durability in terms of scratch, drop, and water resistance. All buttons are exactly on the same position as last year. It's different but at the same time familiar to navigate. And speaking of familiarity, you still have the same rounded edge screen at the front of the phone, which we will discuss a little bit later. And just the overall feel and form factor, it's pretty slim, tall, and light, which is a definition of a premium phone. And also Xiaomi is giving us IP68 rating that you can only find on the more expensive devices, which means you can submerge the water 1.5 meters in 30 minutes. The technology that came with the front screen on this phone, which we will use most of the time, has been upgraded from last year's 13 Pro Plus 5G. It retained the same 6.67-inch AMOLED display, which they call CrystalRes display. It has 1.5K resolution. We got the same technology from last generation with 68 billion colors, 120Hz refresh rate, HDR10+, and Dolby Vision. But this year they've upgraded two features, which is the max brightness from 1800 nits. It's almost doubled at 3000 nits, and this is punching on flagship brightness territory. And also from last year's Corning Gorilla Glass Victus, the protection is now more durable, the latest Corning Gorilla Glass Victus 2, which you can only find on flagship phones. Again, Xiaomi promised a more durable Redmi phone this year, so both front and back receive a Corning Gorilla Glass protection, and the front glass having the better protection with that fancy and gorgeous looking curved edge. Color accuracy is really good. You got deep blacks and the colors are vivid. Xiaomi also has a plethora of really good wallpapers that would take a good use of the screen technology and will give you an eye candy experience. Also, under that gorgeous curved display, you have an optical fingerprint sensor that is super responsive and reliable. We also have an AI face detection method for security, but I feel like the fingerprint sensor is still a better security option for Xiaomi Redmi Note 14 Pro Plus 5G. And if we talk about performance, we can talk about all the numbers and benchmark scores, but one thing is for certain, this one is running on a very good, popular, and flagship caliber Snapdragon 7S Gen 3. Actually, this is one of the first phone in 2025 that will debut the new chip from Qualcomm. We have different variants from 128 gigs to 512 gigs of storage, base 8 gigs or 12 gigs of RAM. My review unit has 12 gigs of RAM. That can be extended up to 18 gigs. Also, my version of the phone has 512 gigs of storage on UFS 3.1. That for some might be a good trade-off or wiggle room if you're purchasing a phone. Because why buy a flagship phone with base storage configuration while you can put your money in increasing the configuration to the highest? And with the specs this phone has, it really feels like a flagship phone on my average day-to-day activity. Obviously, scrolling and opening up the apps will be a breeze because of the 120Hz refresh rate and the fluidity of HyperOS, but once you've opened the app, this is where the processor kicks in. 7S Gen 3 can play Mobile Legends on ultra graphics and settings, so I'm pretty sure if you're playing some highly intensive games other than Mobile Legends, you would probably get really good performance out of it. And for anyone who wants a gaming phone in 2025, this is actually a good chance to score an all-around gaming phone. And if we talk about numbers and benchmark test, running Geekbench 6, this phone scores 1153 in single core and 3230 in multi-cores. And if you compare these numbers with other phones, this is around Snapdragon 888 or 8 Gen 1, which is comparable to Samsung Galaxy S21 or S22. Again, if we're talking about gaming and app optimization, I think 7S Gen 3 is a moving forward and future approach, since more and more games will support this newer chip as opposed to the older and aging processors from the older flagship phones. And with all the horsepower the Snapdragon chip has, I think it's fair for Xiaomi to jump into the AI discussion, having their mid-range phones using Google's AI, the Gemini AI and Circle to search to name a few. We also have AI interpreter, notes, and recorder. And on the camera app, you can edit photos using AI beautification, AI erase pro, and AI image expansion. All these AI features which other manufacturers offers under their flagship devices are now present on the latest Xiaomi mid-range, which is half or even one-third of the price of those phones. This phone also uses HyperOS that gives you an option whether to choose classic view or with app drawer. It's pretty minimal like a Pixel launcher. What makes this launcher more fun are the themes, wallpapers, and fonts that could change how your phone looks. And out of the box, it's running on Android 14, but with the recent updates about Android 15, we may see the latest OS also running on this phone. And according to my research, Xiaomi will support this phone for 3 OS upgrades, so that's good. This is until Android 17. If you're planning to use this phone longer, I could be wrong on this information and I will correct myself on the comment section. One of the most talked about part of this phone is the camera, because you have an interesting camera setup at the back, a triple camera module aside from all the AI editing features like the beautification, bokeh, and AI erase. We have a 200 megapixel main sensor, that's a big 1/1.4 sensor, an 8 megapixel ultra wide, and a 2 megapixel macro. In front you will have a 200 megapixel selfie. The 200 megapixel main sensor has a really good performance on almost any situation, from daylight to nighttime. You have really nice color reproduction and exposure. There's a lot of details on the subject. Beautification on portrait mode is there when you need it. And I also like the natural background blur when you're closer to the subject. The ultra-wide camera is good, not as excellent as the main sensor. The performance is just okay, a typical ultra-wide lens of a mid-range phone. We also have a dedicated 2 megapixel macro, and it's there when you need it. In terms of numbers on video resolution, the ultra-wide lens can only shoot 1080p video, so as the selfie camera. But from 1x to digital zoom on the rear camera, you can do 4K video recording, and I will show you sample videos of them. This is a quick selfie video test in 1080p 30 FPS on Xiaomi Redmi Note 14 Pro Plus 5G. Look at the colors of the trees and the sky. How about my skin? The beautification mode is turned off on this selfie video recording. Now let's switch to the rear cameras. So this is the video recording using the main sensor in 4K 30 FPS. Unfortunately, if you use the ultra-wide lens, it can only shoot 1080p. Let's switch to the ultra-wide lens. And this is the ultra-wide lens, again 1080p 30 FPS. So you would see that the quality is a little bit less than the main sensor. It can only shoot 720p or 1080p. Now let's switch to the telephoto. And this is 4x on the camera app, a little bit punched in, of course. Again, this is in 4K 30 FPS, and looking at the colors and the details, not as sharp as the main sensor, but again, good enough to zoom in on the video. It can go as far as 6x. So this is the video sample on the latest Xiaomi Redmi. Pretty good and reliable video recording capability. On the selfie camera, you only have 1080p. If you want to shoot 4K, you can use the main sensor and the telephoto lens. On the ultra wide lens, again, 1080p 30 FPS. Aside from the flagship features it offers, this phone also has dual speakers with Dolby Atmos technology, which gives you a really good audio performance. And basing my experience on my day-to-day test, the speakers are loud and crisp. And because it's dual firing speakers, once you watch a content or video, it gives you this balanced audio left and right, a full surround experience. Here, this is a quick test of the audio performance of Redmi Note 14 Pro Plus 5G. And lastly, the battery life. I feel this is both exciting and heartbreaking to know at the same time. So when I got this review unit, I thought they will have the same 6200 mAh battery, which we have on Redmi Note 14 Pro Plus. I think that's the regular 14 Pro Plus. This 5G phone only has over 5100 mAh, which is still good since a lot of flagship phones like Samsung Ultras and Pixel Pros only have 5000 or less. And with that efficient 4nm processor, we will have the same good battery life on this phone. On my own personal test, it's an easy 1.5 day phone for me on an average use. And if I only do phone, text, and a little bit of camera use for snapping photos, I could extend this to 2 days. Now, what's exciting about this variant is you have 120 watts of PD charger included in the box. And I will do a separate charging and battery test of this phone. But on my initial impression, you could go 50% under 30 minutes and a full charge under an hour. Again, it's really helpful having a really good battery life that would last an easy full day. And you got one of the fastest charging technology if you need to top up. To conclude this video, I feel like the mid-range phones today are the new flagship for average people's need. I don't think they need the brightest screen, an overkill processor, a better zoom capability and ultra-wide lens of an expensive flagship phone. Sure, those are really good features, but there's a specific market for it. This phone will retail around $400 on different regions. There could also be a slight price difference. And with everything it offers from durable design, bright AMOLED screen, flagship performing Snapdragon 7S Gen 3, fully customized HyperOS and all the AI features with great battery life and one of the fastest charging speed, Xiaomi Redmi Note 14 Pro Plus 5G is flagship caliber but cheaper.